Here's a brutal truth about professional cycling that most fans refuse to acknowledge. Sometimes the most talented riders destroy their own careers by demanding what they haven't yet earned. The collapse of Juan Ayuso's relationship with UAE Team Emirates-XRG serves as a masterclass in how ambition without patience can backfire spectacularly. What started as cycling's most promising partnership has now become one of the sport's most controversial divorces. And the fallout reveals uncomfortable truths about modern team dynamics. Let's travel back to that magical September day in 2022, when Ayuso seemed destined for greatness. Picture this, a 19-year-old Spanish prodigy racing his very first Grand Tour on home soil during the Vuelta España, sitting comfortably in 5th place overall. By the time the peloton rolled into Madrid 10 days later, this teenager had secured a podium finish on his debut, a feat that historically predicts future superstardom. The cycling world took notice immediately. UAE Team Emirates recognized they had discovered something special and moved quickly to secure Ayuso's services through 2028, positioning him as the natural successor to their current superstar Tadej Pogačar. The Slovenian phenomenon had already claimed 2 Tour de France victories, and here was his potential heir apparent, ready to learn from the master himself. But here's where the fairy tale narrative starts to crumble. Fast forward exactly 3 years to September 1st, 2025, and the partnership that once seemed unbreakable has completely disintegrated. Ayuso and UAE have reached a mutual agreement to terminate his contract early, a diplomatic way of saying things went catastrophically wrong. The official reason? A simple phrase that speaks volumes: difference in vision. For cycling newcomers, this corporate speak translates to a fundamental disagreement about Ayuso's role within the team structure. The young Spaniard had been vocal about his ultimate goal, winning the Tour de France and becoming the world's best rider. The problem? His teammate Pogačar already holds both of those titles and shows no signs of relinquishing them anytime soon. The 2024 Tour de France marked the beginning of the end for this troubled relationship. Ayuso finally got his chance to debut at cycling's most prestigious race, the event he had dreamed of since childhood. However, his role was clearly defined as a support rider, domestique, for Pogačar, not as a contender in his own right. Even before the race began, Ayuso's comments revealed his true intentions. "It's the biggest race in cycling, and it's the biggest dream," he explained to reporters. "My dream is to personally win the Tour one day, but to race my first Tour in a team that wins it would be a good start." And this is the part most people miss. Ayuso's Tour debut became a public relations disaster. Within just 4 days of racing, his teamwork came under intense scrutiny. On the infamous Col du Galibier climb, teammate João Almeida was caught on camera shouting at him, clearly frustrated with his lack of cooperation. Spectators and cycling experts watched in bewilderment as Ayuso appeared reluctant to contribute to the team's climbing train supporting Pogačar. The image was damaging. While Almeida, himself a Grand Tour contender with similar ambitions, seamlessly fulfilled his domestique duties, Ayuso seemed to require constant motivation just to do his job. The contrast couldn't have been starker, and it raised serious questions about his professionalism and team-first mentality. Ironically, Pogačar's dominance on that very stage to Valois ultimately made Ayuso's poor teamwork irrelevant to the final result. But the damage to his reputation was already done. COVID-19 would later force him to abandon the race, meaning he missed the victory celebrations in Nice, a symbolic absence that now seems prophetic. The 2025 season initially appeared to offer redemption for the young Spaniard. He started the year in spectacular fashion, claiming victories at the Fondrome Classic, Trofeo Ligalia, and the prestigious Tirreno Adriatico stage race. A narrow second place at the Volta a Catalunya behind veteran Primož Roglič suggested his development was finally back on track. This early season success earned him co-leadership status alongside Adam Yates for the Giro d'Italia. seemingly the breakthrough opportunity he had been craving, and for a brief, shining moment, it appeared his patience had paid off. By stage 7, Ayuso had captured his first ever Grand Tour stage victory in Tagliacozzo and climbed to second place overall, sitting just 4 seconds behind leader Roglic. The cycling world buzzed with excitement. Was this the moment when Ayuso would finally step out of Pogacar's shadow and claim his first Grand Tour title? But here's where it gets controversial. What happened next exposes the harsh realities of modern cycling's unforgiving nature. Just 2 days later, disaster struck during the treacherous gravel stage 9. Ayuso crashed, reopening a previous knee injury that would plague him for the remainder of the race. But the real twist of the knife came from an unexpected source, his own teammate, Isaac Del Toro. The younger rider seized the moment, claiming the pink jersey and becoming UAE's new focal point almost overnight. For Ayuso, watching a teammate, someone even younger than himself, steal his thunder must have been devastating. He dutifully supported Del Toro's bid, but the writing was on the wall. By stage 16, his knee problems had worsened significantly, causing him to lose massive amounts of time and fall completely out of contention. A bizarre bee sting during stage 18 provided the final insult, forcing him to abandon his second consecutive Grand Tour. While Del Toro ultimately finished second overall, losing the title to Simon Yates on the penultimate day, he had already won something more valuable: Pogacar's approval and the team's confidence in his potential. Suddenly, Ayuso found himself fourth in the UAE hierarchy, behind Pogacar, Almeida, who had won 2 World Tour stage races in Switzerland and the Basque Country, and now Del Toro. The heir apparent had become the spare. When Ayuso received what seemed like a lifeline, replacing Pogacar on the Vuelta a España start list, rumors of his imminent departure were already circulating. His attempt at co-leadership with Almeida quickly devolved into another public relations nightmare. While Almeida emerged as the clear general classification focus after Ayuso struggled on stage 6, the Spaniard could only claim that overall victory was never a goal, a statement that rang hollow given his previous Grand Tour ambitions. His stage victory from the breakaway the following day, complete with a defiant celebration that seemed designed to silence critics, felt more like a farewell gesture than a triumphant return to form. His social media post that evening proved particularly telling. Everything negative, pressure, challenges, is all an opportunity for me to rise. 3 days later, UAE announced his early departure. So here's the million-dollar question that's dividing the cycling community. Was Ayuso justified in his decision to leave, or did he give up too early on what could have been a championship-winning partnership? Looking at UAE's recent history provides some perspective. Most riders who have departed the team in the past 5 years haven't exactly flourished elsewhere. Many were either approaching retirement or had failed to meet the team's ambitious expectations. However, there's one notable exception that Ayuso's supporters will undoubtedly reference: Jasper Philipsen. The Belgian sprinter made a similar leap of faith in 2021, leaving UAE at age 22 to join the then-pro team Alpecin Fenix. His reasoning was simple. With UAE pivoting toward general classification supremacy around Pogacar's dominance, there simply wasn't room for a sprint specialist to flourish. Today, Philipsen stands as arguably the world's premier sprinter. Vindication for his bold career move. But here's where Ayuso's situation becomes more complicated and controversial. Unlike Philipsen, who left because UAE was moving away from his specialty, Ayuso is departing from a team that excels at exactly what he wants to achieve: Grand Tour victories. UAE Team Emirates-XRG and their primary rival Visma Lease Bike represent the pinnacle of general classification racing in modern cycling. The uncomfortable reality is that Ayuso wanted leadership privileges he hadn't fully earned through consistent results. While his talent is undeniable, his track record includes 2 consecutive Grand Tour abandons and questionable teamwork when it mattered most. In a sport where trust and reliability are paramount, these issues created legitimate concerns about his readiness for leadership. Yet this perspective raises its own controversial questions. Should teams prioritize loyalty to developing riders, or is the cutthroat pursuit of immediate results justified? Was UAE wrong to seemingly shift their focus to Del Toro so quickly, or does performance-based meritocracy represent the natural evolution of professional cycling? The timing of Ayuso's departure might actually work in his favor, especially if persistent rumors about Little Trek becoming his new home prove accurate. The American team represents an intriguing opportunity. They possess the financial resources and competitive infrastructure to support Grand Tour ambitions, but they're missing that crucial final piece, a genuine general classification star. Little Trek already boasts impressive depth across other cycling disciplines. Mads Pedersen anchors their classics campaign. Jonathan Milan has established himself as a Tour de France stage-winning sprinter, and promising talents like Matthias Vacek are developing nicely. However, their Grand Tour general classification efforts have relied on climbers like Matthias Skelmos and Giulio Ciccone, who, while talented, haven't reached the elite tier necessary for overall victory at cycling's biggest races. Ayuso could potentially transform Little Trek into legitimate Tour de France contenders, but only if he can overcome the character questions that plagued his UAE tenure. The harsh reality is that cycling remains fundamentally a team sport, regardless of individual talent levels. Domestiques don't simply follow orders because they're told to. They sacrifice their own ambitions because they trust their designated leader and believe in the collective goal. Ayuso's apparent reluctance to embrace this philosophy, particularly during crucial moments like the Galibier incident, suggests deeper issues with his understanding of professional cycling's collaborative nature. For his next chapter to succeed, Ayuso must prove that his problems stemmed from UAE's specific circumstances rather than fundamental character flaws. This means demonstrating the same selfless commitment he expected from others, even if it means supporting teammates while building toward his own leadership opportunities. The cycling world will be watching closely to see whether this talented but controversial rider can fulfill his enormous potential or become another cautionary tale about ambition outpacing maturity. What do you think? Was Ayuso right to prioritize his personal ambitions over team loyalty? Or should he have shown more patience and professionalism at UAE? Is this a smart career move or a costly mistake that will haunt his development? And most provocatively, does modern cycling's emphasis on individual stardom conflict with the sport's traditional team-first values?